Good evening, everyone. So today we are here to play with Prometheus. Just a show of hands, who has experience with this tool already? Yeah, so a couple of you. So what is it actually about? So what we'll be going through today is some hands-on session to give you a feel how the tool will be doing. Okay. Now, so basically, DevOps Playground was inspired by our London team. So a couple of years back, they inspired this idea to form hands-on sessions for the community. So that's where we organize different topics for Meetup, and we publish on Meetup for people to register and come on. So what I'll be doing is basically you follow instructions to give you a feel of how the tool is, different set of technologies every month. We try to do it every month. So the last one we have was on March or late Feb. That was with Jenkins Blue Ocean. Okay, so this month we're doing Prometheus. So everybody is asking me about the access. Okay, with that sleep, right? When you hit the URL, first thing it asks you is for a password or yes, no, right, to accept the cert. That's the password. Okay, case sensitive. Got in? And just a note, there is no need to put camera every slides, okay? We will be sending out for those who registered for the events end of the day. So you just concentrate on the topics we do. Okay, so anybody got problem accessing into your own URL instance? Great. Now, just to show brief history, basically, these are the topics that we will be going through tonight. Brief history of the tool. What do we want to monitor? Then how does Prometheus fit in? Just architecture itself. Last but not least, the hands-on session. Okay. Don't worry if you get lost within the hands-on session. That's why we have a Git repository here that I'll be sharing. Later I'll publish out, don't worry. That has every detailed steps that we will be going through. So if you get lost somewhere, you can just go through again. Yep. Sure. This one? Ken? Got it? Okay. Sorry? What do you mean by it?
It doesn't appear on the screen.
When we type the password,
It doesn't appear.
You see when we type it.
This one can, but only when type password, it doesn't appear. The words
You are already inside.
inside. Yeah.
You are already inside the instance.
Okay.
So basically, if you do a PWD, you are already inside the instance.
Yep.
So
I mean, what I mean is just now when we type the password, it doesn't appear on the screen.
oh, okay. Strange. No worries. So I assume everybody's inside. Okay, so these are the things that we will be touching on. Okay, so just a brief history. Prometheus itself is actually at 2012, right at the beginning, where Matt T. Proud has already had that tool before joining SoundCloud. Okay, then at 2012, he officially joined that. In 2013, they are already internally using for production monitoring. Okay, it was first for public release at 2015. Then 2016, it joined CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, I think. That's the organization that's looking a lot of open source tools, which includes Envoy, Kubernetes, everything is there. Okay. 2018, the tool. So in this, when it went to CNCF, you realize that the tools has two stages. One is called incubating, one is called graduated. So in 2016, it went in as incubating, and in 2018, officially graduated. Okay? So this is a brief history of the two. Now, then the next question is, what do we monitor? Okay, basically anything that SAM metrics you can monitor. Example, I think most of us are very familiar with system monitoring. System like CPU, RAMs. The other word, end of the word is of course application monitoring. Okay, of course the other one is real-time metrics. You could send in like sensors value like temperature, statistics. So all this that produce metrics, right, it could be captured into your Prometheus. Okay. Any questions so far? Now, why is Prometheus a so-called popular choice? If you all have been played with a couple of monitoring metrics, you realize that there's normally two types of ways that you can produce metrics. One is what they call dot format, where it's basically you produce a whole format in dots to form the what you want to monitor. For Prometheus, right, it's slightly different. It's called data model. That means this is what we normally will see external tools. Okay, all the dot metrics. But for Prometheus itself, right, they call it multi-dimensional. What do you mean by that? That means you could inject something called what they call labels into the model. That means I could do a filtering. If you look at that, it's called if you want to look at that level, it's called filtering. I could group based on the results based on certain filters that I want to see. Okay. What about the language itself? Basically, as I told you, it allows you, they have this thing called PromQL, which is what is happening that we will be playing in the lab, that lets you filter the groups of metrics accordingly. Okay, you want to see, example, if you want to see a request, for normal tools, you will see all the requests, right? But for this one, you can further categorize into requests like 200, requests like 404. You could further categorize it based on the labels. Okay. Next thing, it has no reliance on, let me see, no reliance on distributed storage. Okay. The thing about Prometheus, right, it's basically a central storage. You can't, they don't advise you to store it in S3 or something outside, but it's a local storage. That is the recommendations that they provide, because there's a lot of I/Os that will happen. This tool itself is more of I/O operations. Okay, so with that, right, that means you have less chance of you're less reliance on connections, network connections. That's what they meant by this. Then pushing time series is supported with an intermittency gateway. Okay. In the world of metrics, there's only two ways you can grab: push or pull. Okay, Prometheus itself is a pull model. There's a whole lot of articles that's debating which is a better design. Okay, even the designer itself, right, Julius wrote an article regarding why pull is better. He has his point on pull, but there's some scenarios where you realize that pull will not work, which is what they describe as batch or short-lived jobs, which is very fast. Start, execute, finish. It's even faster than before you can realize that you need to pull. So how do you handle those kind of scenarios? So that's why they have this model called pushing, but it's not, how I say, not the best, not the so-called recommendations that they opt for. Okay, if you go onto online documents and you start searching why they have that, it's basically to need to cater for this kind of scenarios, but there's some downfalls of the push gateway. Okay, now pooling. Pooling is what this tool was designed. That means at every interval, it will start pulling in metrics. Okay, that's the pool model. That means the central server will pull. If you want to call the endpoints the nodes, it will pull all the results in at a certain interval that you configured. Okay. There's service discovery. Example like in our labs, we will be hard coding. We'll what we call a SD file, a file format where we know our targets in advance. But what if your target is dynamic? It's always spinning up in real time. So that's where service discovery comes in. They have they support quite a lot. AWS, console. There's quite a lot of them that support integrations. So basically what it means is that it will automatically discover new instances to pull results. Okay. Then there's multiple modes of graphing and dashboard. In short, there's 3 forms. Okay. We will be going 2 forms, which is what we call the browser expression, which is what comes with the tool itself. This is a very simple one. The next level is called Grafana, which we will also be doing a slide installation and have a look at it. The last one is what they call templates, which is the advanced one. Okay, that's the 3 modes that it supports. Okay, any questions so far? Now, let's look at architecture. Okay, your Prometheus server sits here. There is a HTTP server that is basically pulling in results at every interval that you configured. Okay, which is the central. There is a time series database which is storing all your results. That's why it's recommended. This guy has to be better I/O. SSD was recommended. Okay, as to what size, right? It really depends on your own how often you are going to scrap the metrics. That means how often you're going to read the metrics in and how much metrics is going to come in. That will determine how big you need and how long you're going to store. Okay, next thing we look at this session. This part of the world is talking about visualization. So it talks about how do you present your metrics. There's a couple of ways. We'll be going through Grafana also, which is the Prometheus Web UI, which is the most raw one. You will see that basically when you install. So there's different forms for you to present the results out in graphics. Then you realize the prompt QL is here, query language, which basically describes what you want to see in your visualization. Okay, now alert manager. So this component here, basically, there's 2 pieces to this architecture. One is what we call alert, which is what you set for Prometheus. Certain conditions, thresholds. Example, if I cross certain thresholds, what do I want to react to it? How do I want to react to it? So that's one piece which is called alerts. After the alerts, right, it will send a trigger to the alert manager. The alert manager is another piece of component which we will not be doing installation. Okay, but what it does is basically sending out notification. But the beauty of this architecture is that this piece of component here allows certain rules to be in place with a config file. Example, if I'm monitoring a cluster, okay, and one of the database goes down, the entire cluster can't hit the database. Every cluster will start firing notifications, right? From a ops perspective, I will be flooded with notifications if that happens because it's all one same problem. What the alert manager is able to do, right, is able to, if you have already detailed down what you want to do, is able to silence some of them so that it knows that it's all related to one issues. I will only fire once instead of flooding the entire cluster's notifications. That is what the alert manager is capable of doing. Now, then we talk about service discovery. S5SD is what we will be playing, so which we know where our endpoints. In this lab, we know where our endpoints. In scenarios where in a real production, you don't know where are your endpoints because they will be dynamically spin up. That's where service discovery comes in. You integrate with console or AWS to know that where are all the endpoints now to monitor. Next piece on the picture, your jobs exporters. So instrumentations is what is basically talking about. So basically, besides monitoring the so-called hardware resources, system resources, what are applications? Okay, in what we call instrument applications, there's two types. One is what we call white box or black box. So basically, if you have white box, that means you have access to the codes. Okay, if you have access to the codes, you could implant their API libraries into it, so that it evokes, so that it goes into your code, it sends metrics to him during the pull. Okay, that's provided. That's what we call white box instrumentations. You have access to codes, you put those, import those libraries, pass in functions, and you send it. What about black box? Which is exactly the opposite. I don't have access to the codes. So how do I send? Basically, they have a pool of standard, what we call exporters. So if you go into the website, right, they have GMS, they have all the database. I see a lot of database. Basically, what it does is, you just evoke that service with that agent. He will start sending. Of course, that's a black box. You don't know what he's sending. He's sending what is being programmed inside. Okay, so that's what this pool is trying to do. Okay, last but not least, the push gateway. As I told you, short-lived jobs. This part. We normally configure our Prometheus that interval of 10 to 60 seconds. Supposedly, the now dispatch job runs 5 seconds. How am I going to get the metrics in? I can't even pull because it's already terminated by the time I want to pull. So they have this model for that kind of scenarios where you need a push gateway. That means the job itself will dump all the metrics into the push gateway. At the interval, Prometheus will go in and read it out. Downside, you need to clean up this guy. Metrics that is sent from this type, that is sent to the push gateway, it will be kept there. That's the downside. Okay, you need to housekeep it yourself. Prometheus will still go and read, but the data is still kept there. So in terms of the architecture, it's quite simple actually. Okay, every piece is quite distinct. What it's trying to do, in the heart of it is just collecting results. Yep. Yep.
Alert manager.
Sorry.
Right?
Yep.
Alert manager.
Yep.
Right? You got alerts, but can you define the condition that if more than X number of alerts and it stops sending instead of flooding your inbox or SSL?
Yes, there is a rule in the config file for the alert managers. Alerts, basically I told you there's two parts. Alerts basically states your conditions. So whatever condition it meets, it fires. But the last gatekeeper, right, is the alert managers. So he knows, he will react based on the alerts that is coming in, because alerts are tagged with certain conditions. He will know that they belong to the same category. He will not fire. Okay, now hands-on. Before we go to hands-on, right, I need you guys to go into this, our DevOps playground, this URL. Why? You wouldn't want to touch, you want to type a lot of things, example like the config files. I will explain to you the content, but you want to type. So at least you know what's inside the file. And if you need to, you will know how to reproduce it. So go to this website. You will come into this, this one. So if you can't finish the lab here, basically go to this website. You could do the same, repeat the same thing again. Okay, I've done a couple of times. It's always no problem. So you can be sure that the steps here are going to work. Okay, everybody is there? Now, I'll be going through this document also. Okay, so these are the topics that we will be going through. Installing, configuring, install Fate application, install node exporters, do some queries, then the alert itself, last but not least, configure and install Grafana. Okay? Now, first thing, of course, installation. let me see where is my instance. Okay, this is my instance. This is the one. Okay. Sorry? You lost it again? Give me a minute. You got rid of it? Okay. Okay, first thing, let's go to the URL. So once you're in this, it's okay. How come you should be in here. If you all have successfully logged in, you are here, right? So we have already downloaded all the pre-required binaries. Okay, nothing special is also on the instructions on that website. So let's do an ls. Realize there's a folder called binaries right at the root folder of this playground. Correct? So let's have a look first what's inside. cd binaries, do ls. Realize these are all standard binaries that we can download on the website. The links are also given in the GitHub instructions. Okay, just a quick note. This is Prometheus. This is the demo application, which also will be there. So this is node exporter. So basically, this one reads certain hardware nodes like memory, CPU. So that's what they call node exporter. Grafana is here. Ignore the JSON. You will be downloading it yourself later also. Okay, so these are all pre-download for you, but it's all on their official website. Instructions is also provided in the GitHub, the GitHub lab. This one. Okay. Lost? Anybody lost till this now first? Okay. And if you see this, as I go through, if you go into the binaries directory, you should see all the binaries that's required for the lab. Nothing special here, it's all from the official website. You just download it. Okay, now let's go back to our hands-on. Let's start with first thing, installation. Okay, the installation itself, as you realize from the binaries, is just a tile file. So what we need to is to untile the file first. Similar to Windows Word, is a zip. Okay, so the command, if you go down all the way, okay, hands-on section, you talk about install Prometheus. Okay, go to cd/. This part, right, the wget, right, you all no need to execute. Why? Because when you go back home, the binaries is not going to be there. So you need to do it. But in the labs, this is what we already pre-downloaded inside the binaries folder. That's the only difference. Okay. So let's just do this exactly the same thing. cd/. I'll go to my own home directory. Can see? Then I'll create a directory, Prometheus. Okay. You should see two directories here now. Next, I'm going to unzip the whole component into that directory. Okay, I'm going to do this. So this will unzip that binaries that I downloaded. So of course, if you download to a different, when you're back home, if you want to try again, right, definitely what you need to change is this part, the folders where you download. Okay, in my scenario, I downloaded everything into binaries folder. Okay, nothing special here. So what you will get, let's just go in and have a look first. It's a list of files that we unzip. Okay, I'll just exit first, go back to my home. Next, look at the next step. Basically, it says cd inside, and we run these binaries. Okay, we are going to run this file. What it's going to say is listen to port 8081. Default port for Prometheus is 9090, but in this environment here, we have certain ports we are restricted, so we need to change all the ports. So we change it to 8081. So let's just run first. Realize very fast. It just says server is ready to accept web request. Now, next thing, based on your URL that you have, you need to know your public IP. Okay? This is my public IP that I was given. If I go to here and I type in -8081, let's try. You should get into Prometheus straight away already. This is the vanilla of how the tool looks like out of installation, default. Remember we were talking about, so few things you need to take note. Remember we were talking about how you can present data in Prometheus. One way, of course, is here. So this is where you type your expression and it shows you the results. Okay. The other thing you want to take note is basically go to status, go to targets. You realize that he sort of realized that something is not correct because it's monitoring something at 9090, which I said it should be the default earlier. So default configuration always at 9090. So if 9090 is actually running, right, if we started on 9090, you should see this part is the state should be up. But now it's down. Okay. Let's go back to our labs again, which is what I'm trying to highlight here. Now, in order to tell Prometheus some configurations, like example, where do I want to monitor the endpoints? How often do I want to take my metrics in? There is this file called config file. Okay, let's look at our. So let's just do a Control-C to stop this guy, to terminate. Okay, do a Control-C, terminate, get out of the screen, do a clear. If you do a ls, you realize that there is a YAML file. Okay, this is the default YAML file that was, if you never specify anything, it will read from. That is what Prometheus will read from. That's where it got the 9090 configuration. Okay, in our labs, we are trying a different thing. So what we want to do is we will create our own config file. If you realize, let's just do a simple cat what's inside. So it talks about the time, you realize the intervals, the rules, the stacks. The stacks is where are the endpoints. This is the default. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write my own config file. Okay, let's just do a straight away nano. Let's just do a clear first. I'm going to create a file called playground.yaml. Okay, once inside, just paste the whole thing in. If you realize, just paste first, I will go through with you. Control-C, Control-V, go in first. Then do a Control-O, enter, Control-X, exit. Control-O, enter, Control-X. Okay, logically you should have that file here already. Okay, which is the playground. Let's go through that. Now this file is very short. What it's trying to say is, I am going to do a scrap interval of 15 seconds. Every 15 seconds I'll read. Then I'm telling you, next thing is telling me where to read from. So you're telling him, okay, I'm going to read from himself, 8081, which is himself. I'm going to read from some fate applications which we will be setting up that will be running on different ports. Again, I'm constrained by the ports here. That's why I need to keep to all the 80 range. Realize one thing is, Prometheus, you are allowed to put in labels. We will come into the reasons for putting in labels later. Yep.
What is that? I missed that point. Evaluation interval, what is that?
So basically, it's every 15 seconds it will evaluate. Take in, evaluate, same thing.
And how's that different from the scrape interval?
Same scrape interval is reading in. So this one will read. This one will evaluate the results. So you can. It doesn't need to be tally. It's just a standard practice we put in. That's the same. Yep. So This is what we are going to put it in. Take note of this one. That means there's two applications that's going to be labeled production and one going to label on dev. We will be doing that shortly. Last but not least, I'm going to put a node exporter which runs on 9100. We will also be setting it up. So in total, end of the day, just remember this one. Okay, remember this target. Okay, once we start changing things, you will realize it starts to change. So once we have that config file ready, we are going to start the tool again. Okay, same command that we have earlier, 8081. With the slight change, we tell him where is the config file to read now, which is this line. Okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. Okay, once that's done, go back to your tool, just do a refresh. You should see things starting to come out. Remember the 8081 starts coming out already. The rest we have not configured, but the entries are all in. So it's all based on that file. That's why at this stage, it's like, that's what we call the file SD. You know where your targets. And if it grows too big, that's where service discovery comes in. You don't manually type in entries. Okay? So realize there's still four things that's down at the moment. Now, let's move on to our Fate application. Okay, remember we configured 80, 81, 80, 82, 80, 83 and put 2 in prod, 1 in dev. That is the Fate application we are going to do. So same thing, we are going to repeat the steps here. Okay, do this. And I'm not going to execute this. I already downloaded that, so I will just straight jump to this one. Okay, what it's going to do is it's going to unzip and put in the demo application there. From there, we are going to launch it using this command here. Okay, I'm going to that 3 times. First time, I'm going to run at port 8082. Second time, I'm going to run at port 8083. Last but not least, 8084. Okay, which is what is here. So I'm launching 3 instances of the same application at different ports. Now, these applications, right, they already have the API codes inside. That means it's white box instrumenting, we call it. So now turn back to your graph. They should start coming up. That means it's starting to take in results already. Okay, that means the 3 applications are sending in metrics. Okay, so that's the same thing if you have your own application. If you want to put in the instrumenting codes, you just import the libraries, put in the functions. Okay, so now we have that 3 applications. Last but not least, you realize that there's still one down, the node, which is the Prometheus server itself. We want to know what is the resource he is consuming, like memory, things like that. So we have this thing called node exporter. Okay, same thing I'm going to repeat. And I'm going to run the same steps. Okay, it just unzipped that tile that we done. We are going to start it. Launch that. Okay. I did not change anything. Basically, that's the default. I didn't change the port for this. So if you go back to your Prometheus graph again, this thing should come up. Okay. That means all the things that you want to monitor for this round is all up. So that's what the target is. Helps you to see what are all the endpoints. Questions so far? Okay, then we move on. So now we have all the things inside, all the nodes that's up. It starts sending metrics. We want to see what are the metrics available. Okay, we have prepared couple of metrics here that we will be trying out. Okay, first thing, let's look at our HTTP requests total. Okay, if you go back to your graph, type in this one. Realize it's all here. So you realize if we can type anything here, these are all the metrics that's available already. Okay, the one that I'm going to query now is the HTTP. If I would execute, this is the statistics that's coming back. Okay, it's telling me which application is coming in at a number of requests coming in for each of the applications. Now realize I get all the entries. Okay, I get all the entries from all 3 applications. What if I want to do filtering? That's where I'll talk about labels, right? That's where one of the advantage of Prometheus is. Basically, I want to say, okay, I want to query based on Fate app. Imagine if you got a lot of applications, you want to narrow it down your search. This scenario is still the same, okay? But let's do the next one. I'm going to query only against the production environment. Remember, we have 2 for the prod and 1 for the dev. So this is what it's coming back with. So this is what the labels is for actually. Okay. Then you could do very advanced query. Example, I want to find out the number of requests over 5 minutes for the production instance. I could use this function called rate over the span of 5 minutes. You have a lot of functions online for Prometheus website. Okay, let's try to do that. Okay, this is telling me what is the number of requests over 5 minutes time spent average. Yep.
Probably a good idea to enable the query history so we can go back in time, right?
You want to do this? Okay. Then not try that, to be honest. Normally I'll just pass it in. Interesting. Okay. But this is from the application end. Let's talk a bit, move a bit from, remember this is from the instrumentations. This set of results comes from the instrumentations. And you code it in. What about the system set of results? Basically, you could have nodes. Okay. So this is basically the free byte memory space currently on the system. Okay. Now, you realize we could do this top. Okay, it tells me currently my system has around this one. Free available memory left. But it's not close, it's not exactly what Prometheus is replying me, right? Reason is because we are at the bytes level. So if you just need to 1024, convert it to kilobytes. Sorry. Oops. Oh.
There is a syntax error there.
Where is that?
Previous screen. You see it? It's BTYES instead of bytes.
Ah, okay. Thanks for highlighting. So this one will be wrong. Just take note, guys. Okay. Sorry? Node memory, free mem. Yeah, it should be correct. Let's try this again. Just check. Okay, I think I'm disconnected. Give me a minute. Sorry? Oh, okay. Yep. Thanks. Let's try again. Strange. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Oops. So 1024. Okay. So this is what we should have from our tops, if you realize. Okay. 2065, which is pretty close. 2067. Okay. That is what when it converts to kilobytes. Can? So if we look down the list, so how many, as a percentage, how many is that this value is? You could just do the free one over the total one times 100%, it gives you a percentage. So this is about 51% still free, available. So you can do different mathematic or arithmetic with the query itself. Okay. So let's look at what about HTTP requests. You could also do like the sum of HTTP over the count over the last 5 minutes. The total. Okay. So this one will be the sum. But let's say if I want to base on a certain status, I don't want to see everyone. Example, I just want to sort them by status. This one presents you in the form of status. What is the count rate of everyone based on the status that's returned? Question so far? Yep.
So in the fake application, you already included the Apache exporter library into the application.
Yeah, inside the application itself, you already imported their libraries. So they support quite a lot: Go, Java, Ruby. Okay, I think there's 11 types. Basically, you just import the libraries into your application and you call the functions. Okay, then you will know all the metrics that you are seeing here is coming from the application that you quoted. So HTTP everything here. So how we know that is basically demo app. These are all coming from him. Of course, Go, all those Go's one, right? All those Node one is coming from the Node exporter. So out of in a very simple environment, put in Node exporter into the machine, put in Prometheus, monitor it, you will grab all these hardware results, memory space, disk space, consumptions, everything, without touching applications yet. Okay, of course, next thing that comes in application, if I got access to codes, I can put in the codes. If I no access to code, I put in the so-called the black instrumenting, black box instrumenting, where you put in the libraries. Okay, if you want to look at what are the available libraries we can do, basically under instrumenting, you have all this pool of libraries that you already can use. These are all the so-called official exporters that means the moment you run it. So example, let me show you GMX. Okay. Okay, so this is GMX. let's say if I have I could just evoke this agent together with my Java, and it will start sending in metrics. Of course, I have no control what it sends, but it starts sending based on what this jar provides, because I have no access to the code anyway. Okay, that's the command to start up. As simple as that. So basically, it has a pool of things that you could use out of the box if you want. Okay, these are all the exporters. The one that we're touching on, of course, is one of them is a node exporter, which talks about the hardware results. Any questions so far? So you realize currently you could do all these things. Okay, let's say I want to monitor a results where my query, one of my request time, hits certain threshold. I want to set up alerts. So before I can do that, I need to find out the expression that I need to find out the expression to use to find average time a request takes. Correct? So this will provide me that time. Okay, this expression. Basically, the number of requests over the total number of request calls will determine the average per request. So you have this. I think there's some typo. Okay. Some by this one. Wait, again. Okay. Targets. Okay, looks like my system is down. Realize. So basically, it sort of will terminate my service in the background. Okay. Okay, apologies for that. Okay, so I'm going to start it again. Okay, apparently the firewall will terminate all my applications. Okay. So if I were to execute that same query, let's see if I can find anything here now. Yep, you start seeing some values. Okay. Now suppose this is the average time. I'm interested to know who crossed my threshold. So what you can do is basically, I'll try to do that before he dies again. I could put in a condition greater than 0.3. Okay.
Quick question, right? So if the endpoint is down, the target is down.
Yep.
End of the day, these metrics are stored in Prometheus. It should still come out with something. The data is stored in Prometheus.
Yes.
So if you're running a query, it is going to query the database. When my target is down, why does it tell you there's a result?
Good question. Good question. I'll take note of that. I'll try and find out about that. Yep. So basically, this is why I'm trying to put a condition here. So that anything that is greater than 0.3, I want to flag as an alert. So that comes to our next point. Basically, alerting. Now, so let's try to kill one of the instance. Okay, let's kill one of the instance using this. Kill 8084. Okay, logically you should see him coming out targets. He should be down soon. Yep, should be down. Okay. Then there's one up metrics that you can see. Basically, it shows you the status of your individual nodes. Okay. We are going to configure a rule, alert. Okay. At the moment, the alert is nothing. Okay. How do you create an alert? Basically, if you go to the instructions, okay, I'm going to CD here. Of course, I need to go back to my this one. CD here. I'm going to create okay, sorry, this part you ignore first. Thought it's already fixed. Never mind. Okay, nano this part, nano this file. Okay, remember this file was what we touched initially. Append these 2 lines in. Oops. Great. Can't see. Okay. Grounds. Okay. CD Prometheus. Okay. I'm going to do this. Sorry. I'm going to stick these 2 lines in. Doesn't matter where you put it. Okay, what it's trying to say is anything reads all the rules that is inside alerts.d directory. That's what it's trying to say. So basically, I'm going to control. Sorry?
Can you explain the YAML file?
Yep.
So you understand how you are like grouping and gambling, right?
Yep.
You say your application you are running with 3
Mm.
instances. So 2 is for production, 1 is for development, right? Can you explain the YAML file?
You mean this line here?
Yeah. How do you differentiate that? It belongs to development grouping and it belongs to the production environment.
No, for this demo, it's just randomly. If it's your own environment, right? You need to identify where is the IP address of that application, the port. Last but not least, how do you want to add additional metadata to that, so that it allows you to sort of do filtering when you're doing a query. So in this scenario, in our so-called playground, we are just defining, randomly picking part 2 into production, part 1 into dev. So in your real environment, you need to distinguish all the labels. And the thing is, Prometheus itself has a lot of functions to play with labels. Okay, it's not only hard coding labels. It could change labels on the fly. Let's say reading from AWS labels that you already tagged in, right? You could rename them inside the Prometheus where it's reading in. There are functions to do that already. In just that, in these simple scenarios, we are just packing as dev and prod so that we can do query based on the types. Okay. So I'm going to do this. Control O and Control X. Control O, enter. Control X, exit. Okay. Next, I'm going to create this directory and go into that. Remember just now we were saying read the rules that's inside this directory. Read all config rules. So we are going to create a config rule file, which is called alerts. And I'm going to create these rules inside. If you realize notice that some of the rules here is what we did in our query. Example, this one, if it's down for more than 1 minute, I want to fire. If this thing is more than 0.3, I want to fire for more than 1 minute. Okay, this is what we have. So we put in 2 rules. Anything that's down for more than 1 minute, any transaction that's more than 0.3, fire the alert. Okay, so same thing. Control O, Control X. So let's just have a look. Okay, everything is done. All you need is to reload this rule. Okay, at our Prometheus website. The moment you do that, go back to your Prometheus, go to alerts. You should see something there already. At the moment, none of the rules have been triggered because it says for 1 minute. Later, if you come back, it should all turn to red already. So it's just looking at active, active. Later, it will be fired. Remember, this is just part 1 of the equation. If you have your alert manager installed, this is where it will be fired to the alert manager. From there, alert manager will take care what to do. To send emails or to send out notifications, decides. It's all in the other portion of the network architecture. Okay? So from this installation, right, you realize that it's not that tedious. The part is always, what do you want to see? What kind of metrics are you interested in? Okay, so, and you realize out of the box, this guy has some simple ones, but it's really like, I have not tried this. I've tried once only, but it's not enough data to show. It's not very intuitive. The graph is very standard, I will call it. Okay, that's where Grafana comes into the picture. So whatever metrics that you have inside Prometheus, it could be displayed into graphical in Grafana. Okay, which is what our next steps will be doing. We will be doing that and doing a simple output. Okay.
Quick question.
Sure.
So, the alerts
Mm.
can be only sent to alert manager, or can it be sent to other alerting tools?
Is always sent to alert manager. Alert manager decides from there.
Okay.
There's a couple of integrations in alert manager. Yep.
So I can't send alerts directly to say Ops Genie or
No, because alert manager will do the filtering, as what I said earlier. So let's just go through the steps. CD again. Make our Grafana. Then we will unzip it. Again, it's from the website. Nothing special. Only difference now is, again, because of port restrictions, I need to change ports, which I need to go into his config file. Okay. There is this file called defaults INI, which is Grafana config file. Once you are inside, follow this instruction because I am going to change a port from 3000, which is the default, to 8080 due to the restrictions here. Go to control line to search. You will say line to search to replace. I put 3000, enter, replace with 8080. Okay. Then you put yes. Okay. Then you do a Control O, enter, Control X. Just to make sure, let's do a cat default grip. Port. See this line? Change to 8080. Okay, that's just playing with the ports, that's all. Then we can start the service. Go into the bin directory, launch the instance.
Here's the problem for
Yep.
doesn't come up.
Which one doesn't come out?
Instance, it sees that it starts, but when you look at if it's listening to its port 8080, it doesn't listen to the port 8080, it doesn't go anywhere.
Grafana?
Yep.
I'll try mine and see. Interesting. Okay, let me start first. Okay. Then once it starts, if you go into same thing, go into this IP address, go into 8080. Sorry. I started. Okay. Default. Okay. Then next thing, just download this file. Go into this link, download this JSON. there's a lot of dashboard templates available from Grafana's website. I'm going to use one of them that's available for Prometheus. Okay, download this JSON file into your local disk. We will be using it shortly. Then log into your Grafana, basically admin. Skip the change password one. You will come into this part of the screen. Grafana itself is already integrated with Prometheus actually. Okay, how do we enable that integration? Go to data source. Okay, click on data source. You realize it has a pool of things that is able to integrate. Go into the one we're interested in. Okay. Only thing that needs to change here, if you look into that, is this URL. If we install default, you don't even need to change. But our environment, we need to change because we changed our port, remember? So we change it to 8081. So I just need to go in here, put 8081. And I will just do a test and save. Okay, up front, that means the data source is already configured. I'm good to go in a way. Okay, so the next thing that we want is to launch the dashboard that we have already downloaded. How to do that? Basically, go to the plus, there's import. Okay, upload JSON. It will come to the disk drive. Remember so basically I already downloaded, basically it's this one. Okay, click on it. One last thing to need to change, basically, is to tell him the data source. Just import. Okay, so you will have your entire Prometheus status here on this dashboard.
This does not connect to the time series database directly, rather through the
Yep.
API.
Correct. So if you need to, you have another set of data coming, another dashboard for that set of data. So this is displaying all the nodes exporters that we're talking about, all the results, but it depends on how he designed the dashboard. Of course, if you want to customize, you need to customize the JSON. Any question? Yep. Sorry, can't hear you.
When I try to import it, the import gets grayed out after I
Yep, you need to select your data source, remember? Right at the bottom, there's a data source. You need to select the Prometheus data source that you. Yep. So there's a plus sign. Discard, yep. Yep, so. No, just cancel. I think you went to save. Discard. Yep. Upload the JSON. Yeah. Then then you need to select the data source. That's the only final part. Okay. So basically, it's here, data source. The part you miss out is here. Okay. You need to tell him which data source to go. Great. So that's what we have actually. And conclusion, basically we realize not that tough to set up the tool. Okay. Let me go back to. So basically, we come to the conclusion of that. So basically, you realize that nothing that tough to get the tools. Basically, if you know the pieces, how the pieces get together, and you could start sending in metrics easily. Not much high requirements. The only part you need to take note if you're planning out for production is two things: your disk space and the scale. Okay. If you're talking about very big scales, so if you ask me how much can Prometheus support, they already have cloud providers, DigitalOcean, that is using that, who should have millions of, they say, claim to have millions of metrics coming in. Okay. The thing is, the next question you could ask is, could I do scaling up? Yes, they have this thing called scaling, which is quite similar to what we call it as, the term in Prometheus is called federations. That means you have multiple Prometheus servers sending to a so-called a big node. So basically you are spread, you are scaling horizontally. Okay, that is what they have for so-called, if you want it to be federation mode. Okay, last but not least, basically, okay, last we want to talk about is basically we also provide hands-on training. Okay, we are official partners for HashiCorp, CA Technologies, and CloudBees. We do provide official trainings on and off. So you need to chat with any one of my colleagues or me if you are interested. And we also have our DevOps course that we partner with SMU to talk about the DevOps tools. There's basically a 1-day course and a 3-day course. So 1 day basically we go through high level. There's no hands-on, very theory. 3 days you really get your hands dirty to go through the labs. Okay, that's all. Anything that you guys want to know about the tool or interested to find out more about it?
Prometheus for as a monitoring tool not for the cluster of the pods, but rather than the real servers.
Yep.
Have you seen any experience with that, or it is designed for the like in containerized environments?
Categorize, what do you mean by?
Is it designed specifically for the containerized environment monitoring, or you can use for?
It's designed for that. Yes, you can, because if you're talking about DigitalOceans, all their systems are in containerized. Yep.
Do you have any real-time example for the block box monitoring, like JMX invoking a job? Do you have an example?
I don't have that, but it should not be that tough. I have not tried that, to be honest. I don't think it's that tough. I have a couple of jars which I could try out if you need to, but I don't think it's that tough because what is sending, if you search into JMX Explorer, he will tell you the list of things that I'm exporting. If it doesn't contain what you want, then you got to write your own. That's the only thing. Yep.
So how about the alert manager? Is it difficult to configure? I've seen the alerts being
Yep.
configured, but how about the alert manager?
Alert manager is one quite complicated, the config files. There's a lot of rules there because ultimately you need to decide.
Which one would be friendly? Which one?
Yes, you need to decide whether should I go into severe critical and who to send to, and what should I do if there's multiple of the same categories coming in. It's quite a big file.
So is it difficult to configure?
Not difficult if you use the default one. But if you want to play with customizing, that's normally the challenge. Yep, yep. It's separately installed. It's a separate component which you need to bring it up also as though it's like a Prometheus server. It's a separate component. So if you go to Prometheus official website, one of the component is Alert Manager. It's another tile file. Yep. Yep. You need to have one centralized Prometheus server which is monitoring, yes.
But if it's multi-region, then how do I set up?
Remember, they are all pods.
Oh, so I need to open up.
Correct. Because it's a pool, he just need to go there and pull. Yep, if no question, that's all I have.